Hi, my name is Victoria, and I'm going to be presenting the argument that supports the resolution that video games glorifying gun violence should be banned. To demonstrate the importance of this resolution being passed, I am first going to explain that this ban would take place by any vendor of video games and that the ban would be specific to any person under the age of 18 in the United States. The necessity of this ban stems from the glorification of gun violence in games as notorious as Grand Theft Auto to Call of Duty to more recent, more realistic games like Battlefield 3. Without this ban, the upward trend of violence in youth in America today will only continue to rise and lead to even more unfortunate shootings and loss of life. An essay written by John Cherry coming out of Purdue University reports that 80% of households with boys are also households that play video games. While girls play as well, the percentage drops to under 50%. As we know, the last couple of years it has been increasingly alarming and common to hear that there has been a shooting within a school. In a chart compiled from articles written in newspapers across the country, there have been 91 reported school shootings from 1990 to as recently as January 31, 2013 in Georgia. Of those 91 shootings, only 3 of them were done so by unidentified shooters, and more importantly than that, only 3 were female shooters. That leaves 85 shootings that have identified male school shooters since 1990. I chose to look starting at 1990 because it is also around that time that video games started to emerge and gain popularity. In the 2 decades preceding 1990, there were only, and I say only in comparison to the numbers following, not to diminish their importance, 34 school shootings. The correlation is not without merit, and it has also been closely evaluated by many who have taken interest in banning video games that glorify gun violence. Video games have become an issue not just because of their use of weapons, but their realism. In the most recent addition to the Battlefield franchise, Battlefield 3, EA Games built up the hype so much for its release that it is credited as their most successful, most realistic game to date. Taking excerpts from TechCrunch, a website dedicated to gaming, Battlefield 3 sold over 5 million copies of their game in their opening week this past June. More alarming than the fact that so many people wanted to get their hands on it are the statistics that came along with it. In their initial intake of information for EA Games, which lasted 12 days, 47 billion shots were fired, resulting in 1.5 billion kills in this game for their first 8 million gamers. How much time was devoted to this graphic game is unimaginable. Similarly, Call of Duty Black Ops had an impressive first 24 hours, reporting over $500 million in sales. The motive of these types of games are why they need to be banned. Dr. Richard Besser, who writes for ABC News and has his own health-related blog on abc.com, has taken special interest in the link between violence and video games. In his article titled, "Do Video Games Make Kids Violent?" he writes about how the rules of the video game world do not mirror the reality that those playing live in. In conversations Besser has with Dr. Davies in his article, she states, "A huge part of discipline and development is understanding consequences, letting kids know that their actions have consequences. Video games like Grand Theft Auto turn the consequences into the positives. You kill a prostitute and you get points. You're rewarded." Acknowledgement of the inappropriate content is not monitoring how it may translate in real life. There needs to be a ban that is appropriate in response to the damage that has already happened and will continue to happen if one does not take place. There is not time to see if we can figure this out without instituting a ban, and it needs to start now. The importance of the evidence I have provided show that there is significant harm in not taking action, and also that there is a specific group that are vulnerable to the glorification of gun violence. Not seeing this as a feasible and appropriate response to the horrible tragedies taking place so often would be irresponsible and facilitate the danger of video games that glorify gun violence.